I'm taking these pieces from a manuscript that I've just finished. And the whole purpose of the manuscript I got back from teaching in China. And I thought China, I would come back with an entire new book with it being such a foreign place. And I wrote about 20 mediocre poems. Then I came back to Utah, and Chris Rigo asked me, like, what do you have to say? What do you want to write about? And I realized I had a lot of damn things to say about Salt Lake City. And so the entire manuscript is my growing up in Salt Lake City and the otherness of the place, the otherness of growing up there non-Mormon, the otherness of how people perceive Utah and how Utahns perceive the rest of the country, the historical otherness of it, the Salt Lake Valley itself, before the settlers came out, neither the Paiutes or the Shoshone, the local Native American tribes, they didn't claim the Salt Lake Valley. It was sort of a no man's land. And finally, the otherness, the very geography of it. It's cut off from the mountains. When the settlers came up there, you had a lethal wilderness to the north, the desert to the south. The wolf hunts and religious intolerance to the east and the west was still unknown and uncharted. And if any of you have ever been to the Salt Flats, there's nowhere like it in the world, this otherness. So anyway, that's what this new manuscript is touching on, whether autobiographically, culturally, historically. All right. Gather to Henderson. I took in prodigal daughter, her 2 sons, one evil's bane, rich, warm wood, the other a holy city. June sent heat towards, and we genuflected through the sheets off that morning. Sun pours through the westward facing windows, brings the desert in. You brought in a rabbit, its back broken. All evening we fed it slivered carrots, clean tap water, made a hutch from rags. In the morning its chest was still. We laid it out around a wild desert, a quarter mile from the road. She wept as we placed the rabbit in a new space. No longer a rabbit, bundle of muscle, brown fur on the rocks. You were there, lived as the rabbit. It's why you wept. Now winter, I remember the rabbit. God spoke from inside her arms. Summer flooding in while her body thrummed. Don't clap in between. First winter home. Where is wild spinning, silken arms I'm so used? An olive skin is good. In 10 years is it still? So will you kiss me? I tried to kiss you. Will you still? My wilderness encroached upon, a thick deer past the chain link ears. Snowbanks, the dog grinning, buries its face, lifts, buries again. You put your hands up, then grin. City, numerical streets, count one by finger. Crosswalks exert a cruelness that I wait. Silk arms the doe, leaps a snowbank then. My wilderness, suddenly bigger than me. Doe. Doe stands past the chain link, her fawn, navigating packed snow. She sees me, and the immense moon-huge gravity her stillness brings washes across the yard, and over, life, presence, a recitation, a deluge rushed through. She carries her wilderness, a celestial body, the white spots on tawny hide turned into chaos, genetic traits, star maps marked across muscled flank, an entire world standing in the cold. Right. Island songs. Salt water cuts off roots of egress, the antelope among the scrub brush. hill face singing history. Every cresting intersection carries me up home, her dress sliding too. Close the gate quietly. Inside she takes off her red kimono, grins in the dark. Flaneur, we move along 4th South. The year turns, fireworks from a rooftop shift, spread then the valley. Up the canyon, snow kept us, our car mired near pines. The opened valley, lying on my leather jacket, next to the avenue's tennis courts, the remaining world, her shock of dark hair. At night, train whistles ride up the hill towards me. Temple Square, white stones, it's winter and the trees lit. We are isolated within memory, listening to the mountains rise, reaching their rim up. Fumbled hands were heaving, your earring pressed into my cheek. We buy prayer candles and light them in the crosswalk, practically floating away from giddiness. Aviary birds stooped along branches as we passed. Huge snow, its damping effect, press, lie down. A moment stops, then sunlight, an impossible bow, gravity flexing her spine against the metal rail. I'm rooted on the hill, ground falling around me into islands. Dominant traits for Peter Hayes, who was a biology teacher who's dying, unfortunately. Stories coiled in acute angles, sense and anti-sense, lines of polymers translate to protein, the invocation of every trait we inherit. Transcribe our history, 4 letters, backbones made from alternating sugars. Nucleotides bind in sequence, make one human, shuffle, arrange another. You scaled the rock walls, saw base pairs bond, the sequence replicating self in myriad iterations, mnemonic devices, the process of replication, its transference of information encoded in cells and sound sent out, all of us an iteration. Guanine, adenine, thymine, cytosine. You made a litany from this soup, as biology claims all the same words, our very history, DNA, a structure resistant to cleavage. Then 2 strands are rivers, now the helix is cleaved from the mountains. We listened. Each body is a white river, the helices a river too. I'm going to read a couple from, these are very short, a couple from, in Mormon faith, the idea that you can talk to God, and anyone within the Mormon faith can talk to God, especially and have revelations, especially when dreaming, very core tenet of the Mormon faith, and it's a trickle-down hierarchy. So if the head of the household has a dream where he's talking to God, he has a religious responsibility to enforce that revelation to everyone in the household. If the highest up, Grand Poobah of the Mormon faith, they have a responsibility to make the entire faith agree with that revelation. So these are a series of first poem pieces. I'm just going to read a few from them. I heard him. This is nothing to scoff at. I was given specific dimensions, saw sheet metal, the patterns for the underground. Will relocate the dog run, install new pipes and wiring. He told me, he said this family needs a bomb shelter. There's more bomb shelters per capita in Utah than anywhere else in the country. The locusts came, a thrumming cloud thick with translucent wings. He told me, do not hesitate. And in the dream, seagulls came down, consuming in a hurricane, gull cries, the sound of feathers in air. In the dream, a chain rattles on the deep wood of Suzanne's tea table. I reach for the glass. My world transforms and I shake. Tremble my life, too small to even hold a sip of tea in the cup. He says, remember sadness as a sun coming into a bedroom. Then suddenly, a desert creature, my wild life untamed, opening around trees. And last one, in Zion, be water where there are rocks, so I became a river, not through, but instead among. He said a preposition, place yourself where, because that is a geography you can map, navigate, then move through. Desert comes over wild wires, while in chill mountains, every plant is a struggle. Hexagram 29, pe I keun, force and act against stagnation. I've always been part of the inversion. After Antelope Island and 3 scotches, it speaks south towards the cat's maw. He shows me salt, crystal's hard change. He shows me a match on a cigarette's head. The scream sent me reeling back to vomit in the waste bin at Twilight Lounge. Then we cashed another pitcher, passed it back. I'm a river stone tumbling. After I was a river stone, she used my finger to show me her missing back teeth, but her blue eyes, and suddenly Dylan Thomas began to help. Wendy left her practice, dropped nature out of sound. Jordana left my name. Mountains don't matter, a spiral jetty spinning in September. But that Mars landscape, red rocks sing, I hear them singing north towards my salt basin. A bird lands in the new feeder, and hey, I have a little quick friend. Her braided sock appeared in the laundry, made me lose myself in quandariness, while the dress shirts folded hot cotton pleats, her braided neck reappeared. That's a joy, a solve. Tires rolling toward the desert. I feel home in sun when wheels touch down to tarmac. 2 years of absence, I draw the 29th hexagram, stagnation. The iron neck pummels a bigger thumbprint into Kennecott copper. Heavenly Father watched us tear into the mountain in decades, every enormous tire black, hot in sun. I say you died in Carthage. I was on a wolf tooth, but your brother? Were his hands moving at plates he couldn't see? His hands are a riddle set with jail bars. All I want is a desert to encroach until I burn sand, make glass, a window to see where I was. Notice how hard the seasons work at growing small tomatoes. Not tomatoes, but red oblongs, joy from her tendered vine. Look, look, Our mountains press me hard with pebbles and cracks. The brittle scrub brush turns ideas into song. Come, God, give me accidents or a valley to live in without you above. When corn grows, I want it to grow for the moment that it is a thing growing. You saw the boat, a world in one moment gone before the tack encountered the lake's center. A lake, a toy boat, a conversation every reed, rock, and oleander are having. Was I ever a bud, too, wrapped within the vine, my valley bawling springtimes? I have memories before my voice, then voice erased them. I told all this to the oleander and a bird on the water and sun. The oleander forgot, surprised a second time by the bird on the water and sun, focused instead on loving them, then remained a tree forgetting, even after fall rolled away his hot leaves. I talked to the desert, sure God was out there, listening to his oleander's hum. Thanks.